Hi there, I'm Elizabeth with Ellie's Handcrafted Jewelry and welcome to my channel where I share tips, tricks, and tutorials for those looking to learn the art of wire wrapping and wire weaving. And today I'm going to be showing you how to wrap this chaos wrapped pendant here. And this is a really great design if you're starting out, especially if you're wanting to learn a little bit of weaving, but you're also more in the wrapping world. The bail features a figure 8 weave, so that'll kind of give you an introduction into weaving. And also the frame for the pendant is more wrapped in chaos style. It's really great because you can actually do this design with any shaped stone. So in this particular tutorial, I'm doing a rectangle to show that it can be done with those angled shapes, but you can also do it with round, oval, teardrop, marquee, etc. But before we move on to the video tutorial, I wanted to let you know that there is a new written tutorial that is available on my website. It features a very swirly, intricate wrapping. It can be used for marquee shapes as well as teardrop shapes. If you'd like to learn more about this tutorial, you can find more information in the description below, as well as a little card that will pop up here so that you can check that out. So let's go ahead and get into the video.
But before we get started, I'd like to thank Kazdance for sponsoring this video. Kazdance is a gem seller located in the United States and has a variety of high-quality stones. Search by gemstone, shape, size, quality, and more to find the perfect stone for your project. I've left a link in the description below to their website as well as their Facebook page so that you can stay up to date on any new arrivals or sales.
Alright, so you're going to notice that there's not quite a set material list, and this is the reason why. This particular wrap is actually designed to fit multiple types of stones. So you can do teardrop, marquee, round, oval. In this case, I'm using a rectangle. You can also do square. This type of design is actually very versatile. And so I'm using an angled stone just to give you an idea of how you can use it. And I'm going to show you how to measure the wire that you need. And you basically just measure the diameter of the stone, the perimeter of the stone. And then you add about 5 to 6 inches to that measurement. So in this case, it ended up being about 4 inches around or actually 5 inches around. Then I went ahead and added another 5 inches. So I have 10 inches, 10 inches of 16 gauge round wire. This is going to be used for the frame. And then I've also cut a 6-inch piece of 20 gauge round wire. This is going to be used for helping me create the bail. You'll also need some 28 gauge round dead soft wire for weaving. And for the chaos wrap, you're going to need some 20 gauge wire that's round and dead soft. You can also use 22 gauge if you have that on hand, but I really like the diameter of this. For tools, you're going to need chain nose pliers and some flush cutters. On occasion, you may also need your round nose pliers. You'll also need a ruler, of course, and a Sharpie or a pencil, something to create your bail with. And you may also want to have a Sharpie on hand or something to mark your wire with. Now to get started, I'm going to place my stone here. I've measured my wire already, and I'm just going to lay it here on my ruler, and I'm going to mark the center of it right here at 5 inches, just so I have something to reference. And I'm just going to set this here about the center of my stone, and I'm going to mark where the ends are on that. And I'm going to want to bend outside that mark because we're going to want to have a little gap between the stone and the wire frame. So measuring there and bending just outside of that. Doing the same on the other side, bending that straight up like so. And we'll check it against our stone here. So making sure that there's going to be some room and gaps in between the stone and the frame. Let's straighten these out a little bit. And actually I'm going to add a little bit more spacing. And the way you do that is you just press this back down with your pliers and then bend straight up a little bit further over. Stick your stone in there. And I like that spacing much better. Now at this point, I'm going to lay this down, put my frame around it, grab my Sharpie again, and I'm going to mark either side at the top. So place that down right where the top meets on the wire. And I'm going to bend these straight over. So just outside of that line, and then bend it over. Not all of the way, about, if you're using a rectangle stone, not all the way. If you're doing, a circle, a round stone, or a teardrop shape, of course it's going to be a little bit different. It'll be intersecting just above the point. So checking against there. And now I'm going to bend the wires where they intersect. So just about the center. So grabbing the wire where they intersect, holding it down with my thumb there and just bending against that, adding pressure against that. Then on the other side, bending straight over. And now I'm going to kind of bend that over a little bit further because we're going to want to leave a little bit of a gap for our bail. Stick our stone in there, just make sure the gapping is looking good. So I'm going to bend this wire over a little bit more as well. So pressing down with my chain nose pliers and then bending over again. About like that. Sticking that in there. That looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and bend this out a little bit more. So we bring those together. They should be fairly rectangular, about like that. And we have a gap there for our bail, which is what we want. Made that gap a little bit too wide though. So something like that. So the gap should be, I think about 1/2 centimeter or so. I'm just going to adjust this so they are matching as far as angle. Okay, and now I'm going to grab my other wire here. I'm going to grab my other wire here. This is my 6-inch piece of 20 gauge wire. And I'm going to grab my ruler again. Right here, throw it down, mark it at the center. Move my ruler out of the way. And I'm going to bend it in half. Basically. Well, put it at an angle. Right where that Sharpie mark is. And then we'll place it in here. And this is what we're going to use to create our bail. I'm just going to stick there, make sure the angle is right. Might have to angle that a little bit more. This is going to be a little bit of a sharper angle. Just straighten it out a little bit if you need to. and stick it in there. Stick your stone in there. Just make sure everything is looking good, which it is. And now we can move on to the weaving portion. Now what we do next is we're going to pull out some of our weaving wire. And as you can see, I'm working from a bobbin. These are really handy if you need some. I've left a link in the description for you. And we're going to start by grabbing our frame. Moving this aside for a minute. And I'm going to wrap this wire around the bottom of this 3 times. Like so. Then I'm going to grab this other wire, which is our centerpiece here, and I'm going to wrap it around both wires once. Then bring it in between those wires, like that. Then around the inner wire. Scrunch it down just a tad. And now, I'm going to bring it over to this side. So bring it around, so pulling just slightly to pull it together. And then wrapping it around the outside one, frame piece. Then wrapping around both segments on this side. Then bringing it in between those two, like so. Then down and around the inner one. Now I'm going to bring it back over and around this outer one again, one time. Then around both of these wires, one time. Then in between those wires, down. Then down and around the inner wire. And then we're going to come back around the outer wire. Then over and around both these wires. Then in between the 2 wires. And back down and up. So doing a figure 8 weave here around the outer wire. Then we're just going to continue this pattern. So weaving around both. Then in between those 2. Up and around that inner wire. Then down underneath and over top of the outer wire. Then up and over and around both wires. From underneath, bringing it in between those 2. And down and around again. And we're just going to continue this pattern for a little bit until we start creating the bail. So for me, I'm probably going to do about 1/2 inch, which will give me plenty of room to make the bail. And then I'll meet you back at the 1/2 inch mark to show you what else we need to do. All right, once we reached somewhere around halfway, I'm going to start turning this in. So I'm grabbing these 2 wires between my thumb and index finger on my left hand and pushing it over just slightly. And then doing the same on the opposite side. So grabbing it with my index and thumb, pulling it over to create something like a diamond shape. And then I'm going to grab these wires up here and bend it out again. And then doing the same on the opposite side to create basically a little diamond shape. So as I bend it, or as I create my bail, when I bend it over, it'll be this beautiful figure shape. And I'm just going to go ahead and continue weaving. Now, as you're weaving this way, descending, it's going to be a little bit more difficult because the wire is going to want to slide on you. So the easiest thing to do is to hold your wire with your index finger, then bring it down, holding it with your index finger a little bit, holding it down, bring it down, like so. And then we're going to hold it again with our index finger as we bring it over this side to keep it from sliding up, And then holding from behind with my index finger on this side, bringing it down. And then up and over around both these two. Back down and around. Holding it with my index finger. Bringing it down and around. Down and around. So as you can see, I'm using my index finger quite a bit to make sure that this isn't sliding up. Going around this side. And you'll also want to just be really patient. You don't want to rush this part, because if you want your weaves to be even, you'll definitely need to be patient. If you rush, then it starts to pull this together and the weaves are not as clean. So just take your time. See, there's one to pop up. Pull it down, hold it there with the index finger. And wrapping around. Then again. Not adding too much tension. Just enough. Holding it with my index finger. Keep it from sliding up over here. And we're just going to continue weaving like that until we reach the end here. And here's the finished bale. Now to finish this up, I'm just going to take this weaving wire and wrap it around the last wire that I had wrapped 3 times. Like that. You can see there I wrapped it 3 times, and I'm just going to pull and twist. You can either grab your flush cutters and trim it off, or you can just pull and then twist. Making sure that that when you're pulling, that most of the pressure is coming from over here. So now it's nice and clean. And then I'm going to go over here. And this one I'm going to go ahead and trim with my flush cutters. And then I'm going to tuck it in with my chain nose pliers. And now it's time to create the bale. And to do that, I'm going to grab my little pencil over here. Just bend this downward. Like so. That gives me a nice round shape. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this through, maybe. Just bringing these wires through the frame. So this one's going to go up and over the frame on this side, and up and over the frame on that side, like that. We're going to trim it off and tuck that in. Making sure that the flat side is facing the direction you want to have a flush cut. Just using your chain nose pliers then to tuck that back in. And tucking this side in as well. Like so. And I'm going to use this 20 gauge wire and wrap it around a couple times. Oops. And then do the same on the opposite side. Like so. Trim off the excess wire. So now we just need to tuck in that little burr. Doing the same on the opposite side. And there's our frame with the bale. Now I'm going to grab my stone and place it in there. There's still a nice gap all the way around. And now it's time to create a back for it so that it sits in there. Easiest way to do that is to grab some 20 gauge wire. Whoops, excuse me. Grab some 20 gauge wire and create some strips. I'm just going to do 2 of them. So one here. I'm just going to grab my pliers and wrap this around the frame. Then bringing that over to this side, we're going to wrap around this other side here. I'm going to bring this up a little bit so the stone doesn't fall out of the frame. Come on. Scoot, scoot. Right there. Now wrapping this side around the frame. Make sure not to wrap too tight because we don't want to pull the frame in. We just want to create a backing for the stone to sit in. And I'm going to trim this off right here. Trim off here. And then tuck that in. Just making sure you're tucking in and not rolling this around because we don't want to pull the frame together. Like that. Making sure your stone still fits. Now I'm going to grab this other piece and do the same on the bottom side. Also, if you have half-round wire is really great because it doesn't take up as much space in the gap. So I'm just using round wire because most people have just round wire on them when they're starting out in wire weaving. So, now I'm going to trim these off. Trim. Trim. And then tuck it in. Same on the opposite side. Just like that. And now we have this frame. And our stone still fits, which is great. So you can see there's gaps all the way around it. It's still a little, just a tiny bit loose, but mostly just up and down. Because this round wire takes up some space in the gap. Now we're going to get to the fun part. Or at least what I think is the fun part, which is doing all of the swirly elements. And the way that I do it is I cut long segments of 20 gauge wire. I usually do about 12 inches at a time. And you can see it's folded in half. And I'm going to feed this through. You can leave the stone in there if you want to, or if it's getting fiddly, you can pull it out. So right at the halfway mark, I'm going to bring this wire back through. Pull it up. And compress that a little bit. So now you can see this is wrapped around, and I got both these segments running off to the side here. And this is where you get really fun and clever and creative. So I'm going to go ahead and stick my stone back in there and hold it in. You can use hold it against the frame. Or, I mean, if it gets too fiddly, you can pull it out. But I'm going to try and set it with this wire if I can, to some degree. And maybe I will pull it out. Okay, so I'm going to start by creating some swirls and curls. And you can work one wire at a time if you need to. I usually try and do both simultaneously so they kind of work together. So there's one swirl. And creating another swirl. Trying to hold these wires together if I can. You can also work one wire at a time, but I really like the look of having two at the time. You'll often need to straighten your wires. Grab my stone. Whoops. That's my frame first. Stick it in there. If I can get it to sit in there. There we go. And like I said, you can get really clever at this point. As far as where you want everything to sit. And it's going to be fiddly at first until you start getting things set and the stone set. Once that's set, it gets a lot easier. So I'm going to trim this off actually. Or maybe I'll do this. Beat that through. Bring that up. See if I can get my stone to sit there. I'm going to go ahead and trim off at this point. Oops. So there's one side. Now I'm going to grab some more wire. Trim it off. Bubble it, and then you can start anywhere you want on your frame. Maybe I'll go ahead and start, maybe I'll start in the corner on this side. Then go up. And feed that through the frame again. Something like so. Then I'm going to actually start over here maybe. Bringing the wires around together. Like I said, at this point you just get clever and creative and just go where you feel like the stone needs secured, or if there's a certain design element in there involved, you can do that. Oops, let's Scoot that over. Of course, keeps grabbing onto my sleeve. Okay, and bring this up around through the frame. Sometimes it's easier to do one wire at a time when doing that. Compress this a little bit just to keep it from moving so much. Alright, bringing this back through again. Doing the same with the other one. I guess I'll go this way. Okay, so now I'm going to bring this through and finish this off again. Oops. Feeding in through the frame. If I can. Here we go. Then trimming off and tucking in. Yeah, and you want to keep an eye on these. Because they're round wire, they are going to move around a little bit more. So you can actually use your wire as you're framing it to kind of put stops on it so it doesn't go anywhere. So this is just a couple segments of wire so far. You can adjust it as needed. Press it down, move it over. Now the stone is not really going anywhere. It's stuck where it's supposed to be, which is good. Now I'm going to grab another segment of wire and we're just going to keep going. You can even curve in front of the veil as well, if you want to add some more decorative elements. So here's what it looks like once I have all the curly cues on it and everything. You can see it's not necessarily the most impressive, but I'm going to show you what it looks like with the patina, and then you'll be able to see what I really like about this design. So here it is with the patina. You can see it's really, really pretty, and it has a lot of texture and dimension now. And if you'd like to learn more about this process, I do have a video I will tag for you that will show you how to do the patina process. But this is the finished piece, and the stone is tightly captured within all of the wire, and you have a pretty frame or a bail also that's very intricate. And that is how you create a piece using a chaos wrapping. And if you enjoyed this video, I also wanted to let you know that there is a step-by-step that you can go that goes along with this video. There's more information in the description below, but it includes the video clips from this video as well as written captioning to help you work through this process step by step. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions at all, go ahead and leave them in the comment section below as I try to get to them as quickly as I can. You're also invited to join the Learn to Weave newsletter. As being part of the newsletter, you get emails related to wire wrapping and wire weaving, as well as staying up to date as far as what is going on behind the scenes. You'll also be the first to know about upcoming sales and things of that nature. And if you didn't know already, there is a Facebook group below where you can join and just share your work and ask questions and share tips. It's a really great place just to encourage one another to grow in our skills. And until next time, happy weaving!